What's up, people? Welcome to this episode of the By the Hood podcast or webcast because I don't know how you're consuming this content. I'm your host as always. My name is Jimmy. And as we start off every show, that's with gratitude. I want to say thank you to everyone who supports everything that we got going on. And there's so much that I don't even want to, talk about everything we got going on because this is a whole lot. A lot of shows, a lot of projects, but we get a lot of support in everything we do. Special shout out to all the students of By the Hood University, which is growing astronomically. All the energy being shared within there is all positive. I want to say thank you for that. I'm joined by my brother, as always, Corey. What's up, good brother?
Yo, every day above ground is a good day. Nothing to complain about because there's, the world gonna do what it do. I was in a Rona funk for a while, man, but I'm good now, man. Like
Yeah, man.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Absolutely, man. For those maybe tuning in for the first time, like first of all, shame on you. But if so, our platform is designed to highlight brothers and sisters who are out here doing amazing work, doing extraordinary things. And this brother we got on here today, let me tell you a little bit about him before we get into it. This guy is a trader, right? Trades options. And he's an investor. And I've watched him over the last year just like put out tremendous amounts of positive work for not only himself, but what impresses me is he's teaching other folks and helping them along their journey becoming investors and traders. But without further ado, man, I want to bring on my brother John McLaughlin. John, what's up, good brother?
What's up, y'all? It's good to
Yo,
be here, man. I really appreciate y'all having me. I love everything y'all doing over there by the hood, and it's a joy to be here.
Yeah, man. Listen, man. You've become an extraordinary trader, man. Like your chart game is crazy, man. I'm just gonna put it out there like that. Like your ability to chart and see trends and make moves is second to none, man. So, but before we get into your actual trading, let's talk about your background. Where exactly are you from? And how'd you grow up?
My background is a pretty interesting story, actually. We could probably do a whole hour-long podcast on that. But I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I was actually born in Tallahassee, but raised in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm an adopted kid, so I grew up in a predominantly white household. And so I've had an interesting journey through life, definitely. It kind of was, a blessing in some ways because I got a lot of exposure to things I might not have other gotten exposure to, including the stock market. I've been in the stock market for a long time, really, probably going back to like 2000. I mean, I wasn't personally like super actively involved in like everything that was happening, but I was aware of it and kind of, the seed was planted early on in my life. So like I said, I could go on for a long time about my background, but that's where I'm from. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, Southern boy. I spent a couple years up in Chicago when I first left high school. I went to college up there, lived up there for a few years. That's probably like my favorite city in the world right there, Chicago. Came back to Florida, and now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Been here
Okay,
for a couple years too.
so you in Wakanda now. But let me ask you this question. What did you go to college for? What were you trying to study to do in college?
Actually, I was kind of all over the place when I first went to college. My educational journey's been a whirlwind as well. So when I went to Chicago, I started as business. I spent a couple years doing communications. I'm sorry, I transferred to communications after like a year or two, but I didn't finish there. I had my first son real early with my high school sweetheart. So that's what brought me back to Florida because I wanted to be around for his, him growing up. So I left Chicago to come back to Florida. So I kind of left school for a little bit. I never finished in Chicago. I ended up going to a school in Orlando called Full Sail and studied business there. Got a business degree there. Then just kind of did some work for a while in professional environment, doing a lot of data management and things like that. And then I actually have recently gone back to school again and gotten a degree in anthropology. I'm actually a graduate student here at Georgia State right now in anthropology, studying political economy. So basically the way politics and the economy interact with each other.
So what drew you to anthropology? Like what made you pique your interest in anthropology?
I I think really it was just I love culture. I love studying culture. I love learning about culture, experiencing culture, and so I think a lot of the things I was doing in my professional world, like data management and things, doing a lot of surveys and like analytics and things like that, it carries over a lot of that into anthropology. But as opposed to what I was doing before was just more so like interacting with computers and numbers and stuff. I wanted to kind of still do that same thing, but have the human interaction where I'm dealing with people and I'm learning about cultures and that sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm. Got you. Okay. So now, getting into, let's move like a little bit forward where now you're like actively trading and making these moves. How did that come about? How did you go from someone who had knowledge of the stock market based upon how you were raised, to now being actively traded? And as part of that question, I want to ask you this though. How you mentioned that you were an adopted child. How has that shaped you? And then after, and lead into, how you got to be trading. Let's talk about that first.
definitely. I think a lot of people don't necessarily know that about me, just observing me online and stuff. They don't really know where I come from. But it's definitely had a huge impact on just who I am. Number one, like I said, I've kind of just had probably like a different type of upbringing than a lot of people. I was able to do a lot of things at a young age that some people probably don't get to do. And I'm very, grateful for that. But at the same time, it really created a hunger in myself to know myself and more about who I am and where I come from and know more about the world, because I didn't really get to experience necessarily a whole lot of that growing up. And so it really created a hunger.
That idea of culture, right? So now I'm thinking as you say that. So now the idea of you studying culture makes sense.
Yeah. And so, I've always tried to read as much as I can, go as many places as I can. My wife is actually from Belize, so I've always just been, wanting to get out there. I actually met my biological father, who was, a Black man from Tallahassee, and he's given me, a lot of scoop on like our family history. My grandfather was actually the first principal at Lincoln High School, which was the first African American high school in Tallahassee. So, just that hunger to seek out that kind of, knowledge and cultural basis is, I think, definitely something that was kind of just stirred in me from the way I grew up.
Got you. So now the anthropology, now it all makes sense. It all comes together. So now, getting back to the other question about you getting into trading, how did you go from, understanding about the market, maybe long term, to now where, how'd you become a chart god, as I call you guys?
Yeah, well, I know that y'all have had Delancey and Hamilton on your show.
Lance is family, man. And shout out to Lance. I want to say shout out to Lance. And Lance is working on a special project with us. So by the time you guys see this, the project probably will be hit the streets by then. But
beautiful.
Lance is not only one of the best traders in the world, but she's a beautiful person.
Yes, I always say that, like, more. I mean, as much as she has helped me with market stuff, I just love her as a person. But she kind of introduced me to this program to kind of help you learn about the markets. Me and Lance kind of go back digitally quite a long ways. We was in this other group that was based on like some Black history type stuff.
Okay.
An author named Horace Butler. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
when rocks cry out.
Yes.
Listen, I had to say that because I don't want Russell to cuss me out when he watches this, because I think Russell gets a commission off every When Rocks Cry Out book, but that's neither here nor there.
So there's a few of us, from that crew that have kind of made our way over into the stock market. But Lance was the one that really introduced me to it. And she hit me to this program to learn about the markets. I dove into that. I started that really like 2016, I want to say, and just went in like, head first. And I've really made that like basically my obsession the last, several years. And, in addition to that, I took Lance's high-tech options class, which is really where I learned how to chart and stuff. I think I'm pretty good. I don't think I'm nowhere near on Lance's level, but, so that was kind of that process. It was basically through Delancey Hamilton. She really kind of piqued my interest back in the, a few years ago. I seen her talking about getting into the markets and learning about the markets. And I was like, hey, I knew about the markets, but I was like, I would like to be more hands-on knowledgeable about it. And so I kind of followed her lead, basically followed the path that she was on. And
well, let me ask you this, right? Because one thing I know about Lance is that, she's a science background. So for her, like charting and everything just made sense.
mm-hmm.
What is it about, like, because you guys are masters of technical analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the folks watching who have no idea what I'm talking about or listening, John is a trader and he focuses a lot on technical analysis. So there's fundamental analysis and technical analysis, but Delanche is a master of technical, and John is someone who studied under her. I know that she has a science background, which is why it makes sense to her. What is it about that makes sense to you? It makes that the part that you focus on.
I would say it's kind of similar in the sense that I'm a numbers guy, I'm a data guy. So being and obviously it's not like numbers directly all the time, but it's like patterns and just data that's available to analyze, and you can see the trends, you can see the movements, you can see the reversals and things like that happening in real time. And so it really definitely adds an element to your trading, so I think Lance, in the conversations I've had with Lance, she said she's like 70-30% in terms of how much she relies on technical versus fundamental. I'm probably kind of the opposite in that I probably rely more on fundamental in terms of identifying the plays I want to play or considering playing, but then using technical analysis to guide how I play them. So when I'm looking at my market reports and stuff on the daily, most of the time I'm not really looking at the chart initially. I'm looking at, whatever news is happening or whatnot to, make me consider this play. And then after I'm like, okay, I feel like, this is a good place to be looking, then I'll go and look at the chart and kind of see, okay, is it something I want to try to scalp today? Is it something I want to try to swing trade? What's a good price that I might be able to get in at? That type of thing.
Okay. Now I want to say for the folks out there, like, John is very humble, but I'm giving his flowers here. John is an amazing trader. Like I've seen some of his results, like John gets to it. But my question is this, and I like to ask a couple of questions I like to ask every trader. The first thing is, how much studying went into making you as proficient as you are, right? So, like, because a lot of times people they're interested, and by the way, none of this is investment advice. Let me say that, this is for education and entertainment purposes only.
100%.
But I want to know how much work did you put into becoming as good as you are? So, because a lot of folks want to start, like I said, but they're thinking, it takes a lot, and it does take a lot of work. But how much time did you put into studying?
Man, it does take a lot. I won't even lie about that. You really have to be dedicated to it. I don't think it has to be as overwhelming as some people think. Again, it depends on your approach. But obviously, like I said, I've been studying, really intensely for like the last 5-6 years now, I guess, for coming up on 6 years. But I don't necessarily, I'm not spending, hours every night breaking stuff down. I know some people that do that. They'll spend 3-4 hours every night, and, kudos to them. I'm not trying to, talk badly about people that do that. If you have that time and that drive to do so, then more power to you. But, I don't necessarily think you have to do that, but I do think it's something that you have to dedicate time to. So
every single day.
Yeah, like, I'm always reading news. I'm always so I'm always trying to absorb some information on a daily basis, but I don't necessarily spend hours and hours every day, diving in deep on some topics. There are days where I'll go deeper than other days, and I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna spend a few hours looking at these charts, or I'm gonna spend a few hours reading this book, or whatever the case may be. But you don't have to necessarily spend, hours and hours every single day doing it. As long as you make it a priority, something that you're consistent with. I guess consistency would be the main thing. Like if you're consistently applying yourself, whether that be an hour every day, 5 hours a week, whatever the case may be that works for you, as long as you have like a consistent program for yourself that you are dedicated to, I think, it'll work out in the long run.
Got you. And I know Corey had a question. Before we get to the last question I have was this though. I like to ask every trader this, right? So, what has trading taught you about yourself, right? So, but while I let you think about that, I'm gonna tell you, like, give you an example of what I mean by that. So, what has taught me is that FOMO is real, and no matter how much I think I'm disciplined, I have to kind of fight FOMO. So, I do a lot of OCO orders because I don't have to think about it. I'm either going to hit my target or it'll hit my stop. But what has trading taught you about yourself?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is I would say that I'm kind of impatient.
Okay.
And that's something that I've had to work on. And, I've definitely improved a lot. I still run into some troubles here and there, but I've definitely, that's been my biggest stumbling block is my impatience. Whether it's, not being willing to stay in a trade long enough, or whether it's, exposing too much of my account to the market at once because I'm trying to make too much money quickly. Those are all battles I've had to fight, and, just to be honest, like before I became an efficient trader, I've definitely blown multiple accounts, not no crazy amounts of money because I usually always start with small amounts of money, but I've definitely had to like start over, more than once. I'll just say that.
I'm glad you said that because there's no trader that I know that puts up the numbers like you do like that is really good at this point that didn't go through that, right?
And I agree. That's something
And
I found. Everybody that's a great trader that I know has basically had that same story. So I would definitely agree with that. Don't be scared of it. It's just a matter of learning your lessons, getting back up off the ground, and keeping moving forward.
Yep. So go ahead, Corey. I know you had some questions you wanted to ask, Corey.
Yeah. So John, you said you were into the into anthropology and that you also collect data. So how do you use that as part of your trading plan?
Yeah, so I keep pretty detailed like spreadsheets on all of my trades. Um, Not only just my trades, but also so I have a report I put out every day, which will have 3, 4, or 5 different plays that I'm looking at for that day. And I don't necessarily play all of them every day. Some days I might play a couple of them or a few of them, and other days I might just play one of them, or some days I might not play any of them if I'm not liking what I'm seeing going on. So, I keep 2 spreadsheets, one on my actual trades that I do execute, and then another one that's on just the plays that I pick. And so I keep a pretty detailed data of like what it opened at the day I called it, how high it got that day, how high it got the rest, over the length of the contract. And so, it's a pretty detailed thing, and I can basically look at trends. I can sort it different ways, and I can see, okay, I've had a lot of success with, let's say Apple. Apple's my favorite company to trade probably. So far on my reports, I've picked like over 1,200 plays going back over a year. Again, that's not the ones I've traded, but those are the ones I picked. Apple by far has been the company I've called the most. And I think if I remember correctly, only like one of those trades was not a winning trade. Like the other ones were all like massively successful trades. So like I can look at it like that. I have a lot of success with this company, company A, B, and C. I can look at it and I can say, oh, well, the plays I really have a lot of success with are my swing trades that I'm holding for 5 or 6 days. Or I can say, oh, look at these scalp trades. I'm exiting them too quickly. If I had held them another 2 hours or an hour or 30 minutes or whatever the case may be, I would have made this much money. And so it allows me to kind of review everything that I'm doing, my mentality for picking plays, how I execute my plays, and have like a running log that I can always look back to and try to get my lessons from.
So it's almost like a football player or a basketball player studying their game tapes. Like you go back and study everything you do.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, speaking about time, like for me personally, that's probably like where I spend the most time because I'm always having to update it and, you know, go back and look at it. So that's something that definitely like occupies a lot of my time in terms of when I'm studying the market is looking back through both my calls and my trades, and you know, just seeing what's going on there, where I'm having the most success at, and also importantly where are my mistakes at.
Yeah, so you know, I'm a trader also. And so what I do, you know, I talk about trading plans all the time. First thing I
Mhm.
talk to, you know, anybody who wants to talk to me about trading, two things you got to understand. You got to understand volatility, and
Mhm.
you have to understand that if you don't have a trading plan, you're going to lose a lot.
Mhm.
So because I didn't have a trading plan when I first started,
Yep.
I could call the right plays, but I didn't know when to get in. I didn't know when to get out, and so I was losing money on entries and exits.
Right.
And so it's not about just calling the plays, right? You have to
Right.
understand when to get in and when to get out.
Yeah. Picking the plays is probably like the easy part. Like that's
Yeah, that's
probably
the easiest part.
20% of the battle. The other 80% of the battle is, you know, the entry and the exit, the psychology to like stick to your plan and things like that. Definitely.
Mm.
Yeah,
I was about to say, like, for me, entry and exit is probably like 10%. To me, 90% of it is mental to me. Like the mental
Hmm.
part, boy, to me personally,
yeah.
is the absolute most difficult thing about being you know, trading. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely agree.
you know, people. The thing about the market is that especially when you're trading, you have to mitigate loss, right? So the reason why most traders blow their account is because they don't know how to mitigate loss. There's
Yep.
multiple, there's 10, 15, 20 ways to mitigate loss in an options trade, but most options traders don't do any loss mitigation. They either let it run up or they let it go to zero. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like you have to have some loss mitigation built in.
Listen, man, at me, man. You talking about me right now, man. Like, look, I've been there, dog. I've been there where I'm like, I'm gonna hold this just on principle. Let this bitch run to zero.
My trading took off. Like loss mitigation is the thing. Once I learned that that's the key,
Yep.
trading
Yeah,
took off. But
yeah.
Yeah.
so the second question I wanted to ask you is, I know you're a family man, and so what, you know, how does being a family man and trading, you know, like what kind of time restrictions and constraints does being a family man have on your trading, or does it actually enhance your trading?
Man, that's a good question. You know, I can't say that it mitigates my trading much. I mean, I guess there's occasions where it might when things are just hectic because I have, you know, four kids total, two little ones, you know, a 5 year old and a 2 year old, soon to be 2 year old. So particularly with COVID, you know, they're in the house, they're not going to school and such. So it can get a little hectic occasionally where, you know, they're running around and screaming. But you know, I have to, you know, first of all, thank my wife. She definitely helps out a lot in trying to give me my peace when she knows that I'm like working or whatever. Um, and then, you know, if I need to, I can step outside. You know, that's a beautiful thing about modern technology. I can take my smartphone and step outside, go for a little walk around the block and get some peace if I need to. So I can't say it really mitigates me too much. I definitely think it has enhanced in some ways just because of that motivation, that hunger to try to build something, um, you know, that I can pass on and to teach my children. You know, my oldest is 18. He's getting ready to go to college, so I've definitely been pushing him to try to learn. You know, it's a little bit of a battle because you know he ain't always trying to hear everything his dad got to say. Uh, but you know, but I can, you know, the interest is there. I know he hears me. You know, he might not hear everything I'm saying right this moment, but he definitely hears me and he's aware of it. And so just trying to be a good model for you know, for my older kids, because they can see me what I'm doing and see how hard I'm working. You know, I do share with them some of my successes and my failures, so they can kind of, you know, see what it's like. Um, and so definitely, you know, just I think that's another thing. You know, one is the motivation, but another thing is, like I said, wanting to teach them, you know, and I think one thing about teaching is that really good teachers are also learning,
Yeah.
during that process. And so trying to get my son involved, for instance, it helps me learn through teaching him. It also helps me learn in terms of other things and like how I reach other people. Okay, he's not hearing this. Why is he not hearing this? And then I can use that with other people I work with. And I can be like, okay, well, they're not receiving this message. Let me break down why they're not receiving this message or what it is that way about I'm delivering this message. That's not working. So, that's kind of slightly off the topic, but it's definitely, I think, more of an enhancement than a mitigator, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's good stuff right there, man. Because it's important for you to say that too. Because I know a lot of folks listening or watching, when they hear about the kind of work that you have to put in, they're going to think about that. If they're interested, like in starting in that journey, like I got a family, how am I going to do? So it's possible, right?
Yeah,
It's possible. It's possible. All right, so listen now. So now you're a proficient trader. You're doing your thing. You're back in school studying. To enhance your life and everything. What does the future hold for you? So what are some of the things that you're trying to tackle in the future? What are you looking forward to doing?
Well, I would say the first thing I'm really trying to do, I just recently started my own business called Ajay Shaluga Enterprises. And it's basically just trying to build off of my teaching that I've been doing. I've been doing it for a couple of years. I'm trying to, take it to another more official level. And so that's something I really am kind of building right now. And it's already, I'm getting a pretty great response for really just having started it this year. And I've already, like I said, been working with some people. So just trying to build on top of that. And, we do things like we do intense one-on-one work with people who maybe have little to no experience about the markets, just helping them understand it, understanding how to analyze the market and individual companies. We do, option trading training. So, I can basically do like a boot camp type thing where I show you, first of all, how options work and all of that. And then secondly, kind of my process for how I go about selecting plays, how I go about, executing my plays, and all the considerations that you have to take into account so that you can build a system tailored to yourself. Haven't quite started this yet, but we're going to be doing like rolling webinars. So maybe not if you don't want to do the one-on-one type of work, because it might be a little cheaper to do like a webinar. We'll be doing like rolling webinar type of things where we'll be covering both of those: options trading, fundamental analysis. So that's kind of where I'm headed with the market stuff. And then, I'm like I said, I'm in school. I've thought about going for a PhD possibly. I don't really know right now. I'm kind of at the end of my wick right now with school. I'm trying to just finish this program I'm in. I'm in a master's program now, trying to finish that, and then I'll probably just focus on my business for a little while and then reevaluate that later on down the line. Excuse me. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
Well, first of all, congratulations on setting up your own shop to take the skills and everything that it's working for you and to help and teach others. I think that's powerful. We want to support that. So that's amazing. So we will make sure that we put links to everything that you've got going on, your socials and everything within the description box. Let me ask you this question. Throughout this journey, right, you talked about, being adopted and how that made you fall in love with culture and how you got to trading and, now you're back in school so you got a lot of good things going on, man. And salute to you for that. But what has been the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome throughout this journey?
Man, the biggest hurdle that I've had to overcome is kind of going back to what I said with patience and just discipline. Kind of like part of going into, what we were talking about with kind of my background and stuff, like not to say that it's not important to me because it very much is, but like I don't have to put as much effort into long-term stuff as some other people might have to. And so I have put most of my focus on my short-term trading, trying to build my income more so. But in the same aspect of that, it's like I've been really undisciplined and impatient trying to build that because I know the potential that's there. And I know that, hey, if I really master this, if I really do this right, like I can just be set for life. I might not never have to work again, never have to do this again, never have to, XYZ. And so I've put a lot of pressure on myself, you know, to hit certain numbers and things probably before I was ready to. I actually, on my website, I talked about that in a blog post yesterday, how, people put these goals. A lot of times these coaches put out these big goals, but they're not really catered to individual people. They're just like, this is where you should be aiming to get to. But it's like, you have to start from where you're at. And I wasn't really paying attention to where I was at. I was looking at this big goal in the sky and trying to force myself to that goal rapidly. And I know a lot of people that get into the markets kind of fall into that trap sometimes, where they're just they want all the money and they want it all now. And I think that has been my biggest stumbling block. I haven't had the patience. I haven't had the discipline. It took me, it doesn't have to take you this long, but it took me personally years to kind of get to the point where I have got over the hump with that. And like I said, I still have my battles here and there with it, where I get a little greedy or I get a little impatient. But, that has really been the thing. You have to be disciplined. You have to be patient. You have to set incremental goals. Don't just think you're going to go from, oh, okay, I'm brand new to the market, I have a few $100s I can spend, to, oh, I'm about to be a millionaire, in a couple months. Like, it's not going to work. Like, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Set yourself incremental goals that you can achieve, celebrate those goals, and then move on to the next level of goal.
What has helped you the most in getting to the place where you understand that, first of all, that's great self-awareness, but what has helped you get to the point where you recognize that, hey, I have a problem with patience, but I know how to manage it? Because it's always going to be there for you. You're always going to deal with that. But what has helped you the most in learning to manage that?
I would say taking my L's is probably what taught me the the good thing about it is that I didn't give up. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They get in the markets. The first time that they lose some money, they're like, all right, forget this, man. Like, I ain't trying to lose all my money out here. It's something you have to be persistent with. You have to stay the course. And so, you have to learn, but you have to learn a lesson from your L's. You can't just keep taking L's left and right and just repeating yourself. Eventually you have to learn something from those L's so that you can apply it. And definitely the risk mitigation is a huge thing. So I agree 100% with Corey with that. I actually was teaching, or I guess technically I still offer it, but I haven't taught one in a little minute, but stop loss classes, on how to use stop loss, the different types of stop loss, the way you can set them up, how you can use them in conjunction with OCO orders and all those types of things. So that's one aspect, how much money in my account, am I risking? So like, say you have a $5,000 account, you don't have to have all $5,000 out on the market at once. Like, that might be a bad idea, because if you have a day like we had last Friday and everything just starts tanking, your $5,000 account might look like $2,000, and you might panic and sell everything and just be up the creek. So that's another aspect, not putting too much of your money on the line at one time, not overexposing yourself. So those are some of the lessons that I've learned. Definitely risk management, risk mitigation. But that's what taught it to me, just honestly taking my L's. And the thing with risk is that the goal is not to avoid risk, because you have to have some risk in order to gain and prosper. But the goal is also not to run face first into risk. Okay. So you're not trying to avoid it, but you're not also just trying to jump in risk arms. So you have to kind of find that balance where it's like, okay, I know that I have to put some risk on the line, but I'm going to manage that risk. I'm going to make it an appropriate risk so that if things don't go my way, I'm not shooting myself in the foot.
Got you. So basically, you pay tuition is what it sounds like. You
Definitely.
You paid a nice tuition.
Definitely.
Man, this thank you for being very transparent and sharing the story. I got one final question for you, and that is, what is your favorite book or something that's inspired you along this journey?
Yeah, my favorite book, I have to say,
When we
is
try out?
I'm gonna go with the autobiography of Malcolm X. I guess I gotta go with the classic. There's so many books I've loved, so
Well, give us a couple then, right? So you're a book guy. So that's the case. Give us maybe three of them, right? So you said the autobiography of Malcolm X. Give us two more.
the autobiography of Malcolm X is one. Um, let's see. There's a book called A Hope in the Unseen that I had to read back in my day, going into college, which I really liked. And then a third one, I'm gonna say Things Fall Apart.
Oh, okay. Classic material.
Yeah.
But so now let me ask you this question: what is it about the? Because everybody, when we talk about the autobiography of Malcolm X, everybody takes something different from it. What is it about that book that resonated with you, that makes it your favorite book?
Man, I would just say just the way, that it really just captures the whole essence of like you can make yourself what you want to make yourself. Like you don't have to be defined or confined by your circumstances that you find yourself in. You can make yourself what you want to be. Obviously there's challenges and people in, different circumstances might make things more difficult, but in the end, like where there's a will, there's a way. And like if you really want to change something about yourself or your life or your circumstances, you have the power to do so. I think that's what really inspires me about Malcolm X's life and story in general.
Man, yeah, that's definitely classic material right there. So, John, this has been amazing, man. I want to say thank you, first of all, for just your honesty, your transparency, for sharing your story, and also for what you're going to do to inspire people in the future as you bring together your own organization to teach folks. I think that's honorable.
Yeah, man. Honorable. It's better than honorable, man. My man really get to it. So, I can't wait to support and show love. You know what I mean? Like, a gang of dope traders, but John is one of my favorite because he stay the same. Like he don't get too high, don't get too low. He just does what he does. And he, like on top of being great traders, we know a lot of class A human beings.
Mm-hmm.
One of those people also.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So when you get a dope trader that's also a class A human being, you gotta show love to it.
Absolutely, man. And y'all, and I know like John is a very humble man. But when I tell you that this dude is an amazing trader, he's an amazing trader. So what I want to do is this: I want to make sure that we put all of his contact info within the description box, as well as the show notes if you're listening to the audio podcast. And make sure you share this because John has an amazing story, and he's going to do a lot to help our people moving forward. So, John, I just want to say thank you again, good brother. We appreciate your time as always. And anything we could do to help enhance what you got going on, just let us know. Because we believe in collaboration over competition. We're going to push whatever we don't care if you're doing the same thing we're going to push it anyway because we believe in abundance and helping each other out. Absolutely. So, with that being said, though, Corey, you got any last thoughts before we got out of here, man?
Nah, man, just proud of my bro.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. It's number love, man.
I appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all for having me, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And to the folks out there listening, make sure you check out what John has going on. Really try to get in tune with what he's building because he's going to do amazing things for our folks in the future. And we'll listen, as we always say, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep. Game elevates, and we shall see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.